Bruce Stewart again with some fun on the model railroad. I'll start out with a little overview of what we're doing. It's going to be a short one today. I just want to run some trains and make sure that everything's working that we've been working on here since I saw you last. Let's start with a view of the Interbay Yard. This is the maintenance of way area that we added to the front of the layout. And we've got our little switcher here ready to test everything out. I just finished vacuuming, and so hopefully this will all work well. There was we had an opportunity to cut a ravine here to drain the layout, and with all the flooding in the Pacific Northwest the last week, it's a good thing we did this. And my friend Dave was over here Tuesday and installed this retaining wall. As you may remember from previous live stream, we just cut this recently. I'm leaving the push pins in for a couple of days just to make sure that that glue sets up well. As you remember, we inserted this track switch recently and then put in the spur for the maintenance of way equipment. I'll symbolize that with this this container just for fun, because the railroad might have used a container for storing equipment. So just putting that there gives you an idea that there's something going on, even though we don't have the details yet. I suppose I could grab some extra wheels and put them here, and we'll just get the idea that both car and track maintenance work is happening over here. And we'll take a little guy with a shovel and put him over here like he's doing some work down in the ditch to clean things up, just to give some scale. So I guess the first order of business is let's test this track one last time now that I've cleaned it with a bright boy and vacuumed it a couple of times. I just finished the last paving here yesterday. And if you don't know what I meant by a bright boy, it's just a little abrasive track cleaning tool. This one's gotten kind of worn out, but it starts out rectangular. And we'll fire up our trusty switch engine here. With any luck, it'll work. I just cleaned the wheels on it too. Oh, you're not seeing that. There we go. Can you hear that all right? And we'll go in reverse direction and see if it runs. No, it runs. All right, that's good. As you remember, we have this gondola with railroad ties in it. I've been using that as a, whoops, it didn't quite clear. That's a shame. All right, see how the sound goes off? All right, so we got past the switch. Now, just for fun, I'm going to show you how I'm starting to experiment with something called the wire nut operating plan. I picked this up off an NMRAX YouTube video the other day. Here's a wire nut that you might use for household wiring. but you can also use it to represent crew on the ground. You can put the wire nut on top of the engine to represent a crew member riding on the steps here, or you can put the wire nut down where the crew member is. Now in this case, it takes a crew member to come down and flip this switch so that we can go in and shove our car into our track. Now, whether the crew member would continue to ride, I guess we'll discuss as we go along here. I have several more wire nuts if we need more crew. So let's go forward and figure out what we're going to do with this crew person. So are we going to let him jump on the back? Or should we have had him jump on the front? I think we should have him jump on the front because he's going to need to get off and help with the uncoupling or the coupling up here of this gondola that we have. Oops, bang. Oops, I got my throttle out of control. Okay, the good news is that it coupled without the help of the brakeman. The bad news is, oh no, it's not bad news. I was thinking we didn't have the switch set right. All right, let's just go ahead and try this and see what happens. Now, like I said, this is the, whoops, going the wrong direction. I only do that when I'm on camera. Have you noticed that? Okay, forward. So this is the big test. Will the engine and the cars go across this track without derailing? Uh-oh. Now that is totally weird. Oh my, look at this. This is what happens when you're not paying attention and you're too busy enjoying your videotaping. So what happened there was I forgot to flip the switch one way or another. So of course it split the points. This is just sheer incompetence. Sorry. Okay, let's try again. The brakeman on that wire nut is just shaking his head going, you've got to be kidding me. Yeah, we really should set this straight too. You'll notice I haven't put the bridge back either. I guess we could do that shortly. But I didn't want to do it until we were sure that the track works. Okay, here we go. No, wait a minute. We got to flip the switch. So what happened to our brakeman? I think you can see pretty quickly that we're going to go crazy if we really carry out this game. Our brakeman was supposed to jump off at the switch and now flip the switch so that we're lined up for the sighting. And so now we can go ahead and see if we can get into the sighting without a derailment like we had a minute ago. All right, so we're pulling in, but what about this brakeman? You're going to have to uncouple, right? Oops, sorry, I didn't mean to hit the tripod. So now let's put the brakeman back on the riding the switcher. And you know the rule that I can't remember the quote exactly, but you don't let your brakeman walk any more than you have to if you're a locomotive engineer. You'll try to stop and pick them up. And now that's interesting. Can I show you this close up? I'm going to show you this close up. That's what today is all about. It's about troubleshooting this new track and scenery. So look, I'm going to show you this. I noticed it kind of jerked a little bit. And what happened is, let's see if I can show this close up. The pavement is above the two rails, and so it caught on the uncoupling lever, the Katy uncoupling lever, and it shoved it over right on this rock. So let me show you what happened. See that? The gravel is a little bit too high there. And this is something I hadn't really thought about, but that's why we're testing. I guess you could say testing is part of model railroading. Now let's go back to where we were. Now, why the engine noise stopped, I don't know. But we can always, it probably has to do with, well, I don't know what it has to do with, honestly. Come on. Okay. So we have a high spot. We have a high spot there. And we may have some others. Now, why that engine keeps shutting off, I can't tell you. But I just turned it back on again. Let's just shove that back for a second and address this high spot. There are a lot of ways you could do it. I just want something reasonably straight and strong. So a nice putty knife is a good idea. So let's just scrape this a little bit. You got to find those high spots. It seems like there aren't too many high spots except right here where we were. I didn't really see too many high spots there. So, of course, you know what we have to do after we make any kind of mess like that. We always have to get the vacuum cleaner out. Whoops. And that vacuum cleaner hose has to be plugged in. Okay, there we go. All right, let's try this again. You still with me? All right. We're going to try backing it in again, but we're very curious as to why the sound went off there. That's also going to be interesting. So if I start up the engine, we got the sound. I hope you can hear the sound. I've got my earbuds in today, so I don't know if that makes the sound better or worse. Well, that looked pretty good. Now, our brakeman will come down here, uncouple that car with the aid of an overhead hand. And we'll go reverse on our throttle here and see what happens. All right. So as you watch that engine, does it seem pretty smooth going across there? I'd say so. I think we can call this a success. There's a little spot here. I'll have. Whoops. What's that about? Oh, I guess that's the dead frog. This is the age-old question of, do you put power to your frogs or not? I don't know that there's a good answer. If you have all the time in the world, you do. If you're building a huge layout, you tend to cut corners and regret it later. Now, you notice I forgot all about my brakeman. It's bad enough running trains and talking and taking video, but now to keep track of the crew members is taxing my resources. So now I'm going to flip this switch. Actually, the crewman did that, but then he got back on the engine. And we're going to go over to the other spot we need to be at. But I think before we do that, we got to straighten out the engine terminal. So that's That's a second area of expansion we've been doing here lately. Now the good news is we're keeping track of the crew member with that wire nut, that yellow wire nut. The bad news is it sort of wrecks the appearance of the locomotive. So I don't know, I'll take it off for now, and we'll decide if we want to play with it later. Let's go down to the other part of the layout where this is headed. Yeah, so we're on the, I think you can see, I think you can see well enough with this view. I'm gonna shut that switcher down for a minute while we straighten things out. So as you may remember, we had originally a third engine track over here, and I moved it over here so that we could put in some sanding towers. And the prototype Interbay Yard had 5 sanding towers, and we have room for them. So we decided to build all 5. And we built styrene pavement to represent the concrete in between the tracks. And it's a little thinner than the rail height, so hopefully that won't derail any locomotives. So now we could use our switcher to put the sanding car and the supply car on our new track. But since we have a couple of locomotives already in position, I think I tend to favor that approach. Let's come over here and look at these other locomotives. Who doesn't like looking at other locomotives? All right. So here we have 2 of the new GP18s that just came out of Athearn Genesis that are absolutely gorgeous. For some reason, they're blocked by this NP hopper car. I don't know why that is. So let's start them up and see what happens. So we're going to select loco 1996. Now, the reason this is a good use of our time is because if these locomotives go through the engine tracks, the engine servicing tracks, okay, I can go ahead and put a couple other locomotives in position there as well. All right, here goes. Actually, I think I'll shut down the switcher so we don't have so much noise. Just give me a second to do that. All right, now we've got our GP19s, and we can turn on the headlight. Nice headlight, and the rotating beacon, nice and bright. You can see both of those, I think, on your screen. And we should be able to move these engines now into the engine terminal. But first we have to flip that switch. I guess I should have put the crew on there to do that switch, but I think this is a, well, I'm not sure if it's a DCC. No, it's not. It's an old Shinohara curved turnout. So if I flip that switch, it would short out the railroad there until after he gets past the, uh, the gap between the two turnouts. Oh, I'm sorry. I forgot to give you the view of the engines. All right, now I'm stopping. If you think this view is bad, you should see how bad it'll be once we put the interesting. Okay, we're going to flip this switch so that we can go into the engine terminal. And we're going to couple onto these cars that need to be shoved into the sand tower tracks. A little bell just to make sure everybody knows we're coming. Didn't mean to blow that up so much for you. Sorry. The bell can get pretty annoying too. All right, that seems to have worked. Now let's look at what we have here. We have another one of these turnouts that I left in the upright position. We need to flip it over so that we can drop these two cars in the sand track. I'll get an end bumper on this sand car track, but you know how it is. You don't get everything done at once. You wouldn't normally do this switching with two road engines like this, but that's all right. We're testing. We just want to make sure everything seems to work all right. All right. Now we can uncouple that. Go in reverse and pull out. Very nice. Now we want to try both of these tracks. I'm thinking the engine tracks. Thinking if we do the back one first, it'll be fun to see the front one coming towards us. We just need to get past the points. Here we go. There are the points. Flip this switch, and we got to flip this switch. Now I know you're saying we should be using the crew, and we shouldn't have flipped that second switch until we got there. And you're absolutely right. Now here, I guess the bell is really warranted because there are presumably a lot of staff in the vicinity of the sand towers. So we'll just leave that on for a minute. I think, I could blow this up so you can see where we're going. This is a test. Let's see if these tracks worked. And like I said before, this is the Interbay Yard in Seattle on the HO scale Burlington Northern. And we've just been installing these posts for the sand towers. In future videos and live streams, we should be able to have the sand towers. Now, that's probably enough for you to see. I'm not going to move the tripod. I'll just let you enjoy it. Now, they're probably going to stop because I don't have the turnouts lined properly. Oh, how about that? All right, we'll turn off the bell and we'll Sorry about that. Where did we go? Oh, so I had to fuss with that switch a little bit because I had forgotten to open it up. Can you see well enough from that far away? I'm going to have to go in a minute, but at least we got this tested. It seems to be working okay. Flip the switch back. And here we come. So again, this is the first time that this track has been used since we ballasted it, and it seems to be fine. These two tracks on either side of the sand towers will be a lot of fun in operating sessions because people will have to position them right so they can get the locomotives set up for their next run. The track to the right of the locomotives, your right, is, oh, the screen is black. Oh, that's too bad. Thanks for letting me know. Not too much I can do about that. It has to do with the well, I think we're going to have to stop it there. I got to go have a call that has to do with the planning for the National Narrow Gauge Convention in Tacoma, Washington this coming September. So put that on your calendars. And in the meantime, thanks for joining. And this has been Burr Stewart with the Burlington Northern. And we'll hope to see you again sometime soon with some more train action. Goodbye.